Chapter 6. Lucas walked me back home. I was happy to see Mom, but Lucas was sad, so I curled up at his feet when he sat in a chair to talk to her. "Oh, Lucas," Mom said, "that is such bad news. What are we going to do?" "We have to move, Mom," Lucas replied forcefully. "We need to go where they allow pit bulls." "I know there are neighborhoods nearby that are pit bull friendly," Mom said slowly, "but, Lucas, we can't just move. We have a lease." "What does that mean?" Lucas asked. "A lease is a contract I signed to rent our place for a year. If we move before a year is up, we have to pay a big penalty. It's more money than I have, Lucas." "A year? Mom, we can't keep Bella inside our home for a year. I have to walk her so she can do her business." I sat up. "Walk? Snow do your business?" There hadn't been any snow do your business on the ground for some time, but maybe things had changed. "I know, Lucas, but what else can we do?" "I'll tell you what," Mom replied. "Doesn't Olivia's mother work for an animal rescue? Let's ask them to come over and see if they have any ideas." Lucas was upset, I could tell, but thankfully not so upset that he forgot a tiny piece of cheese that night. It was one of the most important things we did together. The next day, Lucas and I were playing in the bedroom. He pulled a string along the floor. I jumped on it and ran away with it, but it slipped out of my mouth, and he laughed and pulled it along the floor until I could pounce again. I was so happy to be with him, to hear his laughter, that I could have played that game all day. Then somebody rang the doorbell. My ears perked up. Whenever the doorbell rang, it was one of my jobs to bark a loud warning that a stranger was here. Sometimes Lucas and Mom would join their voices with mine, shouting their own warnings. "Stop it!" They'd yell, "Quiet!" It was one of my favorite jobs. I was overjoyed to see who it was. Olivia, plus a woman I had a vague memory of smelling before. Olivia was confused and called this new person Mom, which was strange. Mom called her Audrey, so that's what I decided her name was. At first, all the people sat in the living room and talked. Mom and Audrey sipped hot drinks out of mugs, and they ate cookies off a plate, but nobody offered any to me. "We've been trying to fight this law for years," Audrey said. "If Bella gets taken to a shelter once, they'll microchip her. If she gets picked up a second time, I'm afraid they'll put her to sleep." Lucas gasped. I went over and put my head in his lap so that he'd remember everything was okay, and also that I hadn't had a cookie yet. "That's so unfair," Olivia said angrily. "I know, honey," Audrey replied. "It's strange because you're not breaking the law by keeping Bella. You're only in trouble if they catch Bella, which means the most important thing is to keep Bella out of sight and sound. I heard her when we rang your doorbell. Does she always bark like that?" "Oh, yes," Lucas replied ruefully. "She also barks when Lucas leaves for school," Mom added. Lucas put his arms around my neck and his face on my head. I wagged. "Well, that's something we can deal with," Audrey said. That was when we started to play a new game. It was called No Barks. I did not like this game. First, Olivia went outside and shut the door. Then she rang the doorbell. I knew it was my job to bark at the doorbell, but Lucas sat down next to me in the hallway and put his whole hand over my snout. "No barks," he said firmly. We did that several times, even though it was no fun at all. It was as if Lucas didn't want me to do my job. What was going on? The doorbell rang again, and Lucas clamped his hand around my muzzle. I sat down on the floor and stared at him in bewilderment. "Good dog, Bella," Lucas said. He took his hand off my muzzle and gave me a treat. I began to like this game a little better. Then Lucas went outside and rang the doorbell, which was very odd. He never did that. Each time Olivia or Mom told me no barks, and I realized that if I was quiet, I would be a good dog who got treats. I even tried it when the bell rang and no one said anything to me. Treats! I decided right then that it was better to let the doorbell ring without making any sort of announcement than to do what I had always considered to be one of my most important jobs. Our next problem is harder, Audrey said. You can't keep a dog cooped up inside all day, especially one as young as Bella. Hearing my name, I looked at her eagerly. There had been a lot of treats today, and I was hoping that would continue. The animal control officer told me he saw me walking her. He would have to pick her up, Lucas pointed out. Right. But he also said he won't come up on your porch to take her, Audrey replied. And that's something I think we can work with. I was really excited when Lucas brought out the leash. Hold still, you silly dog, he told me. Where does that lady live? Olivia asked. Lucas went to the window and I followed. Right down there in that white house, he replied. Okay, I'll go check to see if she's in her yard or looking out the window, Olivia said. She slipped out the door. I watched her go, baffled. Didn't she know we were about to take a walk? Why would she leave now? She must never have seen a squirrel before. I sat tensely, staring up at my boy, who was still staring out the window. Okay, he said to Mom and Audrey. She's waving. Good luck, Mom said. Lucas and I left practically running until we were down the street and around the corner. Then he stopped. I sat, not sure what we were doing. Then Olivia came. She wanted to go for a walk after all. Her car isn't there. We can do this, Olivia said. Okay, Bella, time for you to learn how to go home, Lucas said, his hand rustling in his pocket. I stared because I could smell treats in there. Then, in a move that was even more bewildering, Lucas left me with Olivia. I watched utterly perplexed as he walked down the street and up the steps to our home. Go home, Olivia told me. She dropped the leash. Here, Bella, Lucas called. I ran straight to Lucas. Lucas knelt down beside the door and patted a spot behind a chair. His hand smelled very interesting. He had one of those treats in there. I nosed at his hand, but he just kept patting. Then I remembered that Lucas often wanted me to lie down somewhere if he patted it. I flopped down and got the treat. Excellent. We played Go Home a lot. At first, I ran straight to Lucas and lay down by the door and got my treat. Then Lucas picked up my leash and we walked together with Olivia by our side. Maybe we were going to the park. That would be fun. Then Lucas dropped my leash. Go home, he told me. I stared up at him. This was very odd. Go home meant running to Lucas, but Lucas was already here. Lucas and Olivia were watching me intently. She'll get it, Olivia said to Lucas. She's really smart. Just wait. They stared at me. I stared at them. They wanted me to do something. But what? They wanted me to go home. Go home meant running to Lucas and laying down by the chair and getting a treat. But Lucas was right next to me. I could not run to Lucas. I could lie down. I did that. I looked up hopefully. She doesn't get it, Lucas said to Olivia. He sounded unhappy. I was frustrated. Where was my treat? I was lying down. When I lay down before, Lucas gave me a treat. But I hadn't been laying down on the sidewalk. I'd been laying down behind the chair, next to the door. Was that what Lucas wanted? Why? The treats in his pocket were my favorite, chicken, and that's what made me decide to take a chance. I sprang up and raced toward the door. Once I got there, I lay down behind the chair, just like I'd done before. Would I get a treat now? Bella, good girl, Lucas shouted. He and Olivia came running up, and he gave me 2 treats. That was amazing, he told me. He and Olivia were so happy that we played the Go Home game over and over. I liked it very much. Go home meant running and treats and happy Lucas. I loved Lucas. After that day with Olivia, we played Go Home often on our walks. Lucas would unsnap my leash, and I would run back to our house and curl up beside the door. When we did go home, I was a good dog who was given food. But somehow, when we played no barks, I never felt like a good dog, even when I got a treat. She's so smart, Lucas told Mom. I told her to go home all the way from the park, and even though she wanted to go in and play with the other dogs, she turned right around and came here and was waiting behind the chair for me when I got back. Good dog, Bella, Mom praised. I wagged. So now, even if animal control sees me with her, I can just take the leash off and give her the command, and she'll run up on the porch where she is safe. Are you positive it will work? Mom asked. Lucas was silent for a long moment. It has to, Mom. I don't know what else to do.